Well, under current law, people paying admission of guilt fines for COVID-19 breaches will carry a criminal record for life. However, Deputy Justice Minister John Jeffery says the matter will be addressed in amendments to the Judicial Matters Bill. The Deputy Minister joins me now for more on the story. Good evening and thank you so much for your time. Of course, the big issue here is that there would have been many people that signed that guilt of admission form simply not knowing what it was going to do to their criminal record.
Good evening, Cathy, and thanks for having me. Look, the system is no different. There's nothing new about this system. For particular crimes, you can have the option of paying an admission of guilt, in which case you don't have to appear in court. People should be informed that that admission of guilt will result in them having a criminal record. So that's the existing, and you have the option whether you want to pay the admission of guilt or you want to go to court and contest the matter. The issue of admission of guilt is something we've been looking at since before the whole COVID issue, and that was that there have been, well, people do get criminal records. Often people don't realize that that's what's going to happen, or they don't realize the implications of a criminal record. And so we had been looking at an amendment to ensure that for most admission of guilt, people don't get a criminal record. I say most. The idea, I think, was that the minister would determine the categories of crimes that would have a criminal record. And the one I've been using is particularly juristic persons, companies that are committing environmental crimes. You do want a record kept of those admission of guilt so that if they are messing up the environment, that they don't just continue getting a slap on the wrist and as if nothing had happened. So those would be some of them that would probably still have a criminal record. Obviously, if this goes through, it would need to be a legislative amendment to the Criminal Procedure Act. Then it would apply to the people who've paid admission of guilt fines for the COVID matters.
And now, would this just apply to those that have signed these admission of guilt under COVID-19 and either the period entering this lockdown, or would it just be applicable to anybody else in the past who may have committed other crimes?
It would be applicable. What we're looking at is people who have paid admission of guilt fines, had their fingerprints taken. That is when you get a criminal record, because the record is filed according to your fingerprints. So it would apply to all those. Currently, the position is that you've got to wait 10 years if you've committed a minor offence for which you haven't had to go to jail without the option of paying a fine. You've got to wait for 10 years for that record to get expunged, or you've got to apply for a presidential pardon. So what we've been looking at, and as I said, it was from before COVID, and it won't just be the COVID breaking of the COVID regulations, but all admission of guilt, or most admission of guilt, to expunge those records.
Of course, part of the difficulty, especially when we're talking about the COVID-19 period, is that when we see this conversation happening, in the public space, many people will think, hey, maybe if I do break the lockdown regulations, the consequences won't be so bad.
Yeah, the whole purpose of criminalizing breaking the regulations is to try and prevent social interaction, which causes the spread of COVID. So it's very much a deterrent, both the fine that you may have to go to court and the criminal record. So it's not something that one wants to encourage at the moment. So really what one can say is that it wasn't the intention specifically to address COVID admission of guilt fines. This was something that was being considered before. It's still something that's got to go through Cabinet. It's got to then go to Parliament. So at the moment, if you pay an admission of guilt fine for breaking a COVID regulation, you will get a criminal record.
And I think
people need to be aware of that.
Sure, and the important point here is that there's still a lot more lobbying to the process that needs to take place before it's gone through. Or are you 100% confident that this amendment will be passed?
No, I mean that's why I'm saying the existing law is you get a criminal record. This is a proposal. It would be obviously up to, as with any bill going to Parliament, Cabinet would have to approve it, and then Parliament would have to approve it. And obviously, if it does result in a greater number of people paying admission of guilt because they think they're not going to get a criminal record, and they can just pay the money and then carry on doing what they were doing before in terms of or mixing socially, then that may impact on things.
Sure. That was Deputy Justice Minister John Jeffery. Thanks for your time on The Pulse.